This session is called Creating Search Optimized Content. And in this session, you're going to be learning how you can create content that will rank well in Google searches. So first off, why should we optimize our content? Well, the short version is it doesn't matter how great your content is if nobody can find it. If your content isn't optimized for search engines, no matter how great that content may be, nobody will be able to find it and no one will ever be able to read it. So with this in mind, we need to make sure that although we want to create great, compelling content, we need to make sure that we're doing what it takes to make it search engine friendly and making sure that people can find it. Now, there's much more to creating search optimized content than simply putting your keyword in there a few times. Search engines are getting increasingly smart and are looking for much more than just keywords. So in this session, we're going to look at a few ways to make sure that your content is highly search engine optimized and written in such a way that it's going to succeed. So you've probably heard this saying that content is king, and it is quite true because everything really does begin with your on-page content. And by content, we could mean blog posts or videos or even podcasts, anything that you're creating that is speaking to your audience. So we want to make sure that you have great content. And right now we're going to look at some examples of ways that you can create great, compelling content. So before we look at that though, I want to make the point that on page really is half the battle. Most of what is going to cause a web page or a blog post to rank is what happens off the page. And what I mean by that is getting links, getting social shares and tweets and Facebook shares and things like that. So this is why a good SEO copywriter is going to follow the important on-page optimization guidelines, getting keywords where they need to be, where Google likes to see them and such, but also going to write content that will attract links and encourage people to share that content because that is also very important. So let's look at a few examples of content types that typically rank very well. The first one is to just always create value. Content that tends to rank very well is incredibly valuable to the audience. So for example, you can write a definitive resource guide, something indispensable to your readers. Anytime you're creating content that you know they really want, if you create that for them and post it to your blog or your site, they're going to be really happy with you and they're going to be very likely to share it and things like that. You're going to attract links. So creating value should always be at the top of your list. The second here is to answer burning questions. Anytime your audience really needs a question answered, if you can be the person who answers it, again, you're going to attract shares and links. So I always ask my clients, what are the top 10 questions that your readers always ask? And how can you answer them with blog posts? And you can answer these questions more than once in different phrasing or from a different viewpoint. So always be thinking about what are the burning questions that your audience has and how can you answer them with your content? So this is an interesting one, which is to draw a line in the sand or, take a stand. And it's very true that if you try to please everyone, you'll please no one. So it's really important to find your unique voice. And don't just try to appeal to a broad audience. Definitely narrow down your audience and speak directly to them. And it's okay to take a stand, to have an opinion, and to say, this is how I feel things should be. And if you don't agree, that's fine. You're not the reader for me. But when you do that, the people who do agree with you are going to be drawn even closer. So instead of having everybody think you're so, you're going to have some people that are really motivated to engage with you and others that just are going to go away. And that's a better situation to have. So we see this online sometimes, and this is a great way to go viral, is to essentially pick a fight. And everybody loves a good debate. So if you have somebody that you disagree with online, maybe you have a completely different viewpoint. One that I see a lot is people who eat meat and believe that that's healthy, and then people like vegans and vegetarians who believe that it isn't. What they'll typically do is they'll throw a little mud, they'll pick a fight, and they'll write a post that calls them out and says, we disagree with you because this, and this. And you get a lot of negative press this way from the other side because they tell all their friends, oh, go look at this. And again, since everyone loves a good debate, it picks up steam and people will catch on to it. So in your blog post, don't be afraid to call out somebody that you disagree with. And of course, I would recommend being respectful, and you can disagree in a respectful way. But this is a really, really interesting strategy that works very well for attracting a lot of social activity and a lot of links. So another great post type is creating lists. People absolutely love list posts. And if you look at magazine covers, which is something that I do all the time when I'm checking out in the grocery store, and there's always lists. You can always see 5 ways to get this result now. And it can be anything from losing weight or getting healthy or making more money or whatever it might be. There's always the top 3 ways to get this now. And so list posts work really well. They're really easy to read. People can scan them and see the different ways. It's definitely a great way to structure a blog post and encourage those shares. Okay, so now that we've talked about ways to create compelling content and different ways that you can write content that's going to encourage sharing, let's look at those on-page factors of SEO that you definitely need when you are writing this content to make sure that you're seen as relevant and that you have the keywords where Google likes to see them. So the first and the single most important on-page factor is your page title. Just as you would go and read a book, the first thing you're going to read is the title. And if the title clearly tells you what the book's about and you open the book and that's what's in there, that's what you want to do. You want the title to be very relevant. And that's the first thing people are going to look at. It's the first thing search engines look at. So the most important thing is page titles. We actually have a whole separate video on writing compelling page titles, so I definitely recommend checking that out. So the single most important thing you'll do is not only write this compelling page title, something that's going to draw people in, but make sure to work your keyword into the page title. So another very important thing is the meta description. Now, the interesting thing about meta descriptions is they aren't used to actually calculate your rank. Google doesn't read your meta description and use it to rank you higher or lower. It's completely ignored. However, it's very, very important to the user. So when you're looking at a Google result page and you see all of the blue headlines and the URLs and the little snippet of text, sometimes that snippet of text is something Google just scraped from the site. They just did their best to find something. But when you write your own meta description, you have an opportunity to encourage clicks. Let's say, for example, you're ranked 3rd and you have a really, really good meta description. You can get more clicks and more traffic than the person that's ranked 2nd because you've encouraged them to click. You've written a compelling headline and a compelling meta description as opposed to having Google just scrape it. Now, it is important to get keywords in here because Google will bold it in the search results. Again, remember that they're not using it to actually rank you higher or lower. But search engine optimization isn't just about ranking highly. It's about getting a lot of traffic and getting qualified traffic. So you can get more out of a lower ranking by having a very, very enticing meta description. So next up here is headlines. And typically the page title is the biggest of the headlines. That's the first headline. And we do talk about page titles earlier. But subheadlines are very, very important. These days, people are typically very busy, and when they read your content, they're going to read your headline, and they're going to make a little mental decision if they want to keep reading, and sometimes people will just scan. They'll read the first headline and then the subheadlines. If you don't have subheadlines, and you just have a huge body of text, thousands of words that isn't broken up by subheadlines, sometimes people will get a bit overwhelmed and they'll just click back. So a good thing to do is to break up your content with subheadlines that clearly tell people what you're going to be describing in those paragraphs. Makes it more scannable, makes it so people are more likely to read the whole thing. Now, using these subheadlines is a great opportunity for both getting your target keyword and also variations of your keyword. You don't necessarily want to write an article on dog training and then have all your headlines and subheadlines have the exact word dog training. You might want to switch that up a little bit. But definitely use subheadlines to break up your content and definitely try to get your keywords in there. So images. Images are very important. Even though Google can't see them, people love them. So you want to use images because it breaks the content up, it keeps people engaged, and it's a good opportunity to use the image alt text. So when you look at an image and you're looking at it in WordPress or another content management system, you can typically add a description. So although Google can't see what the picture looks like, they can read the image alt text. So the image alt text is a great place to put a keyword. and another way to make Google see your content, see your keywords, and see it in the alt text and be just a little bit more relevant for that keyword. So your body content, of course, is very important, the body of your article. And I hear a lot of people asking me about keyword density, and I want to tell you to not really worry about it. Don't worry about keyword density. It doesn't matter like most people think it does. Just write naturally. Use the keyword a couple of times, but don't force it. Use variations, write naturally. Google is very sensitive. If they see too many versions of the keywords, they're going to get a little worried that you might be doing something unnatural. So it's best to just write the content out naturally and to not think about keyword density too much. Just like I said, work the keyword into your body content as naturally as you can. So this is an interesting one, but linking out, having outbound links to authoritative resources can actually cause you to rank higher. So a way that you can optimize your on-page content is to actually link outward. Now, a lot of people will say, you're going to link outward and it's going to give away your page rank and such, but that's not necessarily true. What Google is looking for is authoritative content that is really, really high quality. And if you write a post and in that post you link out to a bunch of authoritative sources, you're looking like an aggregator of great authoritative information. That looks really good to Google. So you actually want to link out. Don't be afraid to link out to, big high quality sources. Wikipedia is pretty good. If you're in the medical niche, linking to WebMD or whoever in your niche is a big authority, don't be afraid to link to them. And you don't want to no-follow it. Let it be a followed regular link. So when Google sees it, they're going to say, wow, this person's gathering all this information from all these really high quality sources. They must know what they're talking about. So outbound linking is a real interesting and very effective strategy for boosting the authority of your site. So as search engines get smarter, one of the things that they look for is semantics. When you write a post and you try to get your keyword in there, you always want to use semantic variations. And a simple example is if you're going to write an article about car repair, you might also want to talk about auto repair, repairing your car, auto repairing. You'd use different variations, but also not just different phrasing, different permutations, but the semantic variations that people in conversations might say car repair or auto repair. So working those in together is very, very important. Google likes to see that. It's another key sign of relevance. So lastly here, I want to talk a little bit about social sharing. You always want to encourage social shares and make it very easy for them to share. So although on-page optimization is about the content you've written, because so much of ranking is what happens off the page, once you've written a compelling article, you really want to encourage people and make it incredibly easy for them to like it, tweet it, Google Plus it, share it on LinkedIn, pin it to Pinterest, whatever social networks are popular to your particular niche. If you notice that a lot of people that you speak to use Dig or StumbleUpon or Reddit or whatever it might be, you want to encourage those shares, make it easy for them to do it. So once they've read your amazing content, the first thing that they can do is share it with their friends. So in conclusion, speak to people first and search engines second. Always make sure that you're writing compelling content, that you're going to write something that's enticing and interesting and newsworthy. Work your keywords in there naturally. Get them into your page title, your subheadings, your body copy, image alt text. That's all really important stuff. But the most important thing you'll do is work your keywords naturally into a very compelling article and then get people to share it, link to it, and so on.